Live.
We are live with Genesis Office Hours, episode 8. Welcome, everybody, over in the chat room and on the Twitters and the whole World Wide Web. Today, I'm joined by the amazing Ryan Sullivan and Mika Epstein, a.k.a. Ipstenu. Ryan, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I am Ryan from, I'm here from just south of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I run WP Site Care. We do customer, WordPress support. We manage updates, all those fun types of things. And I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Mika, how about you?
I'm Mika. I go by Ipstenu online, and I work for DreamHost as a WordPress support specialist and manager, which means when you get those wacky WordPress problems on DreamHost and they can't solve them, they come and get me. I do lots of training. I go to WordCamps and talk about things like managed hosting or multi-site or how to support your WordPress site without tearing out all your hair. I review plugins and I'm in the forums. I'm really busy with WordPress, apparently.
You were, when I first made my entry to WordPress, Mika, you were one of the first names that I just saw everywhere I went, whether I was in the .org forums or on the Twitters or wherever. You are omnipresent, it seems, in the WordPress space.
I have no idea how that happened, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so question on what is Ipstenu?
It means Epstein, which is my last name.
Oh, well, that was kind of too easy.
Sorry. I wish that one was deep, but my great-uncle Mo always told the story that how when we came over on Ellis Island, our name was changed from Ipstenu to Epstein. This is not true, but it does mean Epstein.
Cool. Well, for everyone just tuning in, you can go over to my site at carriedills.com/GOH to get access to both the video feed, and there is a handy-dandy chat room that you can log into, and we will be taking questions from there. So last week we had Andrea Rennick on and Bob Dunn, and tons of great multi-site questions, and I almost just called you Ipstenu, sorry. Mika is really the de facto and standard for multi-site knowledge. So get your questions ready for her. And then Ryan, he runs WPSiteCare.com, which provides a variety of site maintenance tasks. And you redid your website and are offering some kind of a la carte services. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways that we try and help customers. And when I very first started working on WP Site Care, I had these ideas of grandeur of, I'll just set up, automate some ways to update plugins and run backups and all these things, and I'll charge people a recurring monthly fee and I'll be rich. And that was like a year and a half ago, and none of that has happened yet. But we, as we started helping people like on these monthly maintenance retainers, we started, noticing that a lot of these people needed, more specific tasks done. They didn't, they really needed the maintenance stuff, but they needed a lot more of, I'm sick and tired of my email subscriber, like my email delivery service, and I need to change that. Or this plugin is breaking the editor on my my editor in WordPress, and I need to be able to write posts, and I don't know why that's broken, and all those types of things. And so we introduced these a la carte services that kind of help with those things that don't necessarily fall under stuff that you would need over and over and over again. They're more geared toward, this is a one-time thing that you're going to need help with, but we introduced that mostly because, mostly to help our existing maintenance clients, because they were the ones who, were coming to us with these additional things. But we found that since we introduced those, we've had actually quite a few people besides that coming in and really wanting, a lot more of those one-time, quick fix help things. And so it's, since we launched it, that was probably mid-February. We've been doing a lot more a lot more of those types of, one-off a la carte tasks, and it's worked out really well.
Nice. If you're over in the chat room, you may have to refresh that window about 1,000 times to get it to come up correctly. So we'll start taking questions. Anytime you have one, just post one over in the chat room, or you can send us a tweet at any of us. Jesse is chiming in that he wants an office like you, Ryan.
He wants an office like me. He can have. There's room here. I mean, if he he can come camp out. We'll hang out. We'll have lunch and. No, I do like this office a lot. We just got done, putting it together earlier this year, but I like it. It's a good it makes me feel nice to work here. So.
I'm actually at my home office instead of my office because it's quieter here.
Do you work most of the time from one place or the other?
I work about 75% of the time in our offices up in Brea because I like interacting with people and I get to train people hands-on, and there's a lot of benefit to face-to-face contact when you're teaching people. I love teaching people online and doing sessions like WP sessions, but there's a massive benefit to seeing their face go, huh? In the middle of when you're trying to tell them how to debug a WordPress site. So I like doing them in person, which means I've gone to the office at 1 in the morning to teach Graveyard on their shift, which is always fun.
Nice. If we were on WP Water Cooler, I would totally make a joke about how you said hands-on training. But since we're on Genesis Office Hours and keeping this a family show, I'm going to totally let that one slide. Ryan, a question for you. How did you pick your business name?
I have no idea. Like literally, I mean, there was obviously some thought put into it, but it just made a lot of sense. I mean, I understand that there are a lot of company names out there that are have a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit fancier maybe, but I think you get a good understanding pretty quickly of what we do using that company name, and so it made a lot of sense. And what was really, when it really all kind of came together, though, had nothing to do with me. It was the work of Brody at Blazor 6. Those guys are amazing, but he put together a whole branding package for us, and really fleshed out the kind of how we're represented and the logo and everything, and just did, I mean, I can't say enough good things about what he put together for us. We still get comments all the time about how things kind of came together that way, and it's 100% credit goes to Brody at Blazor 6 for that. So, but yeah, the name just kind of made sense.
Well, it is pretty self-explanatory, so you done well. We've got another question for you, Ryan. Do you guys partner with any freelancers who might want to outsource management tasks? Andrea's saying she's considered that, but not sure if there's a mechanism in place, like maybe a white labeling service or.
Yeah, we do that for actually quite a few different agencies and even some like product shops who sell themes or plugins or that kind of thing. We get on the product side, we just get ourselves incredibly familiar with their product and how it interacts with everything else, and it's a full white label support that we offer for them. They just pay us for like a monthly retainer, and we take care of their requests. And then on the other side, as far as like the agency side, lots of agencies, and I think this is a trend that's becoming more and more true as WordPress becomes a little bit more complex and there's a little bit more involved. Agencies want to build things. They want to build new websites. They want to, keep projects moving along and continually start and finish each new project that comes along. And so we've seen this trend of them wanting to, they're even writing into their contracts, okay, what we do is we build this product for you, and then WP SiteCare is going to come in after the fact, and any remaining cleanup or ongoing maintenance, that kind of thing, they're going to take care of from that point on. So we see it kind of both ways, and as far as we see that with freelancers as well.
Yeah, the short answer of that, Andrea, is if you encounter clients that you just don't want to work with anymore, say, hey, I'd like to introduce you to Ryan at WP SiteCare.
We love the clients you hate.
I think
that's an awesome tagline. You should put that on your website.
That is the tagline right there. Mika, there's some questions flying around in the chat about some upcoming WordCamps. You are like the WordCamp queen. Is there?
Oh, no, that's Suzette.
Well, you know what? Suzette is. Who, by the way, quick shout out to Suzette and Natalie McLeese that are have their podcast running at the same time right now, and they're interviewing Jessica Barnard from the Pixelista. And sorry that we had a conflict there. So. Be sure and check out their podcast later. But yeah, so Mika, how many WordCamps for you in an average year?
I try to limit it to no more than 8. It's not to do with I love WordCamps and I love going to them, but I also have my family life, and I'm trying to juggle both of those because I do have a full-time job that isn't just go to WordCamps and talk about how awesome WordPress is. I'm actually in the trenches doing support, picking up tickets, helping people figure out why that crazy thing happened. I've kind of got to balance that out somehow. I think I did 7 last year, and I've only done 1 so far this year, but I'm going to be speaking at Miami. I'll definitely be going to WordCamp OC this year. I missed it last year. WordCamp LA, definitely San Francisco. I have no idea if I'm going to talk at San Francisco. That's one of those things that's up to Matt.
Well, there you have it. Our destiny lies in his hands.
All of our destiny.
Yes. Ryan, there's a question for you over in the chat room. Puneet runs a similar type of service at WPTroubleshooter.com, and he's asking just in terms of team expansion, like, can you talk a little bit about how large your team is, and what's your growth, or what kind of growth do you anticipate to handle ongoing?
Yeah, so right now I would call us a relatively small team. I kind of like it. That way, we're 6 people right now, and all of us have different strengths. But we, as far as expansion goes, I'll give you a little bit of background. When I started working on WP SiteCare full time last year in June, I wanted to be at 5 people in 5 years. That was my goal, and we're at 6 10 months later. If that kind of gives you any insight into kind of how crazy things have gone, like way crazier than I ever anticipated. And so the last few months we have added a few new people, but we're trying to temper growth a little bit, put some more finite processes into place, really expand training within our team, that kind of thing, so we can really set ourselves up for being awesome for clients long term and not just run like crazy all the time. All that being said, we're always looking for great partnerships, great people to work with. So yeah.
All right. I'm going to hop around a little bit. Mika, what percentage of WordPress users on DreamHost would you say are using multi-site?
We actually tried to figure that out recently. I think that of the people who use WordPress, it's probably somewhere around maybe 6-7% right now, and that's probably on average with how multi-site is used across the planet. It's not really massively used, but when it is, you get one of 2 use cases: a nice small multi-site, and then like WordPress.com levels of multi-site. So there's no real in-between on that one. You're either tiny or massive.
All right. And you gave an interesting talk out at WordCamp San Francisco last year called Why or Don't Use Multi-Site.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if you've met me, you know that I'm kind of sarcastic and silly, and some people took that title seriously and thought that I was actually going to be presenting why multi-site sucks. The truth is I love it. I think that it is phenomenal and fantastic, and I wouldn't be here with a WordPress job if it wasn't for multi-site. But at the same time, for every single use you've got to why you should use WordPress multi-site, I've got an option that's either a plugin or a custom post type or a different sort of configuration that would work just as well and might be easier for you to manage. So, you know, and at the same time, of course, for every reason that I would not use multi-site, I've probably, you know, broken my own advice and used it. But I like to try to get people to think of the balance of what they're doing because it's an awesome tool. It is huge and it is massive, but it's hard to work with sometimes. It's hard to support. And if you are new at WordPress, that's like saying, I learned to swim this morning. I'm going to go jump off the high dive. Good luck.
And that's where Ryan swoops in with his WP Sitecore life jacket.
The Baywatch run in slow motion. And then,
yeah.
then
I see a new promo video coming on. We got a question for what plugins do you use to send emails from WordPress for Gravity Forms notifications? I always just use standard baked-in WordPress goodness. Do you have separate plugins you guys use?
The only thing I've got is sometimes I use the SMTP plugin when my domain is sending emails to a Gmail address, and that's just because some servers are like, wait, that's not you sending an email, I don't want you to spam.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit on how you have it all set up, right? So if you're actually using WordPress to send like newsletters or you have like a pretty big site that has a huge number of users and you need to send out alerts to them and you're not using something outside like MailChimp or Aweber or whatever on the outside, there are some things that you can like WordPress PHP mail in general isn't meant for like mass sending because of some of the stuff you're talking about. Like it can be marked as spam pretty often, but you can tie into some other third-party services and send from WordPress. So like a couple that were mentioned, Mandrill from MailChimp is awesome. So the Mandrill plugin, check that out. It does great to ensure email delivery straight from WordPress. SendGrid is another one. Those are two that we've seen used quite a bit. That make sure you don't get blacklisted and. But yeah, they seem to work really well.
Good suggestions. Another question on what do you do if a client has chosen a ThemeForest theme when you want to use a Genesis Child theme? How do you sell it to them?
I'll support you with Genesis.
I guess it would depend how terribly tied they are to that ThemeForest theme. Personally, I could probably rebuild it as a Genesis theme in less than the time it would take me to come up to speed on how that ThemeForest theme is doing things. So unless they're just really tied to a particular design element, I'd probably try to build it out as a Genesis theme. I don't know. Thoughts?
Oh, ThemeForest. Sweet ThemeForest. So we do a lot with ThemeForest, right? I mean, we have a high volume of people who come in, and usually they're using a ThemeForest theme, and usually they have wishlist member installed, and usually pick however many awful plugins you've ever heard of in your entire life, and they're all trying to work together in the same thing. And so, the direct answer to that question is a little bit different for us because we'll try and make everything work together, but there have been plenty of times when we've gone back to clients and said pretty much what you just said, Carrie. We say, we can fix this, but we don't, that's not a recommended path. Like we would recommend getting with another developer, or having somebody build a theme that actually works the way it's supposed to work, and going that route instead of trying to debug forever. So yeah, I mean, it has a lot to do with, as far as selling it, I think Genesis sells itself a lot, but I mean, you can show any number of examples of sites that are running really well and really fast, and doing the same things they want with this ThemeForest theme, and kind of presenting that to them and letting them choose. Ultimately, it's their decision, but definitely a way you want to steer people, for sure.
Well said. Mika, question for you. Last week we had talked a little bit about setting up, like if you're setting up theme demos or that sort of thing, is multi-site the route to go if you're wanting to show off multiple themes? Or
yeah, and I saw that Andrea said yes, and that's what they're using at StudioPress, and you use it, and I think that that's one of those bubble cases. It's totally awesome and doable and works really well if you set it up properly with multi-site. At the same time, I have seen and used plugins that let you switch through, just changing the theme on the fly, so it's all the same content and it's all the same post information, and you just change how it looks. I would actually say that in that case, I think multi-site works a little better, because you don't have any weird hitches where if you click on a link, it takes you to the wrong URL, because it's all self-contained. I don't do a great deal of theme demos, but the couple that I have set up for people, and yes, I know that it always says on my site I'm not available for contract work. It's because I have like a very small set of people that generally can be described as, they also have the last name Epstein, and I set up sites for them. But I've done a theme demo site for a family member who's selling his own themes. He has asked me not to advertise it today. I just got a text from him. He's watching this. Hi, Mike.
No pressure.
But that's kind of scary, actually. But it's one of those things that works really well in multi-site. It can also work equally well if you set it up properly outside of multi-site. Which one should you do? If I was going to do it, I would have a separate multi-site instance just for the theme demos. I would segregate it from my content and from my store, because it's one of those moments where I think, if I ever want to move the demo site, it's going to be a nightmare if I have to extract it and move it, whereas if I have it its own thing, I can do what I want. Give it its own domain name in a month.
So I got into a bit of a pickle last week. I am working on redoing 2 sites that are both part of a multi-site install that really should have never been a multi-site install. I don't know why it was set up that way, but it is, and now we're running with it. And there's, I don't know, maybe 10 sites in there, but I only need to work with 2. So I was trying to figure out the best approach. Do I do development on the staging, or do I stage the development on the same server as the multi-site? Do I replicate the entire multi-site on a different server, or do I just extract the 2 I need, pull those over? And anyways, it was a conundrum of sorts, because my usual tools like Migrate DB Pro and the way they work with multi-site is not quite what I needed. So I ended up just doing single WP installs for both sites. But then I ran into the issue of certain plugins that I wanted to test. Of course, can't activate outside of a multi-site install. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, other than to say that working with multi-site is an entirely different beast. And what I'd planned to take X number of hours has taken a little bit longer to find some clever workarounds.
Are they going to stay on the multi-site?
They are.
Then I would probably... I just have been sucked into the cult of Varnish, and I'm enthralled by it. And I would probably make a Varnish site where my domain name was... my local domain name was, that domain name .loc or .dev, and dump everything down and just do a straight database replace dev, .com for LOC or whatever I pick, and I would dev everything locally. The question becomes then, of course, what am I moving back up to the main site? I mean, if it's just I'm making a new theme, then I would probably wish that more themes had a theme setting exporter. That's actually my fondest wish for because of multi-site, is that more themes are like, here's all of my theme content. I'm going to dump it into an XML file, and you can just import it somewhere else. Because copying those widgets and plugin settings and theme settings over, the last time I did it, I just had 2 windows open and spent an hour manually making sure it matched.
Wow.
I hate that. The other idea is there's a cheat. Let's say that I'm working on a multi-site example.com or carry.example.com. I would make a new site called carri2.example.com. I would build the theme and all of the settings and everything there. I would make it look how I wanted to. I would then import all the data. Just do a regular WordPress export import, because that gets the hard stuff. The user IDs, the posts, the comments, everything gets slid over. I would rename the original Carry theme to CARRI1, and then name the 2 site back over to Carry. Once you do that, all you have to do is a search and replace in the database to change, Carry2 to Carry. And from the user's perspective, nothing changed. If you're map domains, you might have to change that, but it's not what I would call easy, and there should be a multi-site surcharge on your billing for that one.
Well, there you have it. I invited Mika onto Genesis Office Hours today just to get some free consulting for myself.
Free? No. You promised cookies. Wait.
Okay, so no lie. I had a client send me, via FedEx, a box of cookies yesterday.
That is awesome.
It was and they were really good cookies, because that's kind of a crapshoot. Maybe they're not a very good baker, but no,
We had a customer send us beer when she found out I was from Chicago, and so she went and found a local Chicago brewery and sent the beer to the office.
Nice.
It blew my mind.
When I was a younger man, I lived in Boston, far away from home, and my mom, this is no lie, sent me a cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory, intact in this freeze-dry styrofoam something, and it was amazing.
That is amazing.
She didn't know it was a chain, huh?
Well, I'm sure she did. She knew I love cheesecake, though. Micah's worried about it was the thought, Micah, jeez.
Okay, Ryan, a question for you. If you get a ridiculously out-of-date site that comes to you, do you find that it's often a lack of knowledge on the user's part? They didn't know that they needed to be updating things?
Almost everybody knows, at least I would say the majority of people know they should. I think most people are very afraid of, either have had a bad past experience or have heard nightmare stories about somebody who clicked the update button and everything fell apart and they didn't know what to do at that point. So they just leave it because, it quote-unquote works now the way it is, and so why change that? And so I think it has a lot more to do with people who don't update sites or don't update plugins or core or anything like that. It has a lot more to do with them being afraid of the end result than it is with not knowing they should do it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Mika, I had a question about a sitemap plugin for multi-site. Any suggestions there?
A sitemap plugin? You mean you want all the sites to be on one sitemap?
That's there was not a specification, but is that even possible? Or I guess it depends if you're doing subdomain versus subdirectory.
Oh, you can do it in either way. I've seen there's an XML sitemap plugin for multi-site specifically that does that. It's I've seen it be hit or miss. It doesn't seem to work properly for everybody out there. So I saw that somebody asked, when would I actually use multi-site and when do I pimp it for? Because a lot of people say don't use it, including myself, and I promise it's related. I believe that multi-site is best used for multiple separate sites. So when I want to make an XML sitemap plugin, I'm seriously looking at it from a per-site basis, and that's really how I look over everything. I was telling Norcross this morning that there are two views for what should be managed by whom on a network, and if it's per site content, so that would be the sitemap, your media, your posts, your comments, that's all by the site admin of the site. But things like perhaps caching, and at the time we were talking about spam blocking, those are things I feel that the network admin has a massive responsibility for to ensure the sanctity of the whole network. So while there are plugins out there that will let you do a sitemap to share all the information from all of your sites on your network, if I'm at the point where I think that that's necessary, then I may be considering that multi-site is not the best, or in the case of Google, you can just have multiple sitemaps and in your webmaster account tell it, hey, I've got these sitemaps, and it's happy enough to trundle along. I don't actually use any sitemap plugins anymore because Google is smart enough that I don't have to care. Gosh, I hope I didn't just lose the net.
Nope, Carrie's muted.
Oh, she is.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I had a plane flying over, and
I muted myself on purpose too because my dog started barking. So.
Oh, well, I was hoping that you guys could read lips.
I can, but not on this small screen.
Questions about hosting. Ryan, you guys recently decided to go with SiteGround as your preferred, or how would you describe that relationship?
So everything with a disclaimer, right? We don't think there's an end-all, be-all hosting solution for everybody. Everybody has unique needs. Everybody has things that, like some people want email and their host and and their web files and everything all bundled nicely at the same place. Some people want those things separated out for whatever reason. When when email's a business critical thing, they want to separate email from all those things. So we're not saying it's like the best solution for everybody, but we have been extremely happy with their support more than anything. I mean, their server infrastructure is nice, their pricing is very competitive, but more than anything, can't say enough good things about how they've kind of gone above and beyond, not just from a hosting standpoint, but even digging into some very specific, some very specific plugin issues that have come up that were actually, issues with the plugins themselves, and they've diagnosed that and said, oh, maybe try this, and just been very personable and great to work with that way. So yeah, we're fans for sure.
I didn't mean to put you on the hot seat there, but boy, that was a politician's answer. Nicely done.
Yeah, and I work for a different company.
Actually, Ryan, you put out a great post last year comparing 7 WordPress hosting companies, and then you gave a talk out in WordCamp Las Vegas. I got to hear on kind of what your approach was for the test that you ran on those. And
yes. Yeah, so those are all kind of performance-based, right? And Mika, you'll remember in Vegas, in my presentation, maybe you'll remember this, I actually used DreamPress as this is kind of the model that you want to look at when you're looking at great performance. And so
we've made it better since then too.
See, and there you go. So yeah, what I kind of, it's actually very tricky, and I've become a lot more OCD about benchmarking since then, just because everybody does things so differently, and there are so many different variables that over the last 6 or 8 months, I've just been collecting data on a lot of the managed hosting companies, on a lot of the shared hosting, across all these different platforms, and have just been kind of sitting on all this data because I feel like making it not objective. It's all super objective, but presenting it in a way that is actually meaningful to people, and not just meaningful to people, but actually makes sense to people too for the type of hosting they're looking for, is super tricky. Crazy involved, and I probably overthink it a lot, but it's something I want to get right because there are I have so many great people at all these different hosting companies that I know and work with, and want to make sure that they're represented the way they should be. So
representing.
As a host, I have to say that I actually appreciate that level of care and thought, because we know it's a really messy question, and it's not just does my site perform well, but does the attitude of the host match the kind of support I need? I mean, DreamPress and DreamHost, we don't do phone support. We'll call you back if you pay for that, but everything is chats and tickets. We do that to keep our costs down and to keep our techs sane. But some people absolutely hate that. I've seen people who get mad that we have such a silly monthly newsletter, and to them, I kind of say, well, then we're not the host for you. It's great that we can serve all of your needs, but if you don't like how you feel when you use us, that definitely weighs into what host you should pick.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah.
So we've got a question about why choosing a WordPress, I guess what you call a WordPress managed host versus a standard host. And Mika, you're probably a great example because DreamHost.
Yeah.
Tell the people the difference between DreamHost and DreamPress and kind of the evolution of that DreamPress service.
Okay, so DreamHost is a web host. Like every other web host that you see out there, we have the type of hosting, shared hosting, which is low end and what most people tend to use when they get started. We have a VPS, which is a virtual private server, and we have dedicated hosting. On top of that, we've added a new thing called WordPress Managed Hosting. And I gave a talk on this in WordCamp Boston last year, and I may or may not be speaking about it again in a different way at WordCamp New York. I submitted the talk, we'll see. But the basic idea is this. When you are on shared hosting, it's really shared. You're sharing your memory, you're sharing your CPU power with everybody else who's on there. So you're kind of like you're living in the dorms in college. A VPS is, well, it's true.
No, that was just really a great comparison. Carry on.
Yeah, so if you've got that one really noisy frat boy neighbor who just annoys everybody and sucks up all the time of your RA, you're not going to get the support you need, but also your entire experience is going to suck. A VPS, which is the next upgrade from that, is like moving to, I don't know if your university had this, I went to UC Santa Cruz, and second years and up got to live in apartments. And it was awesome. I mean, you had a kitchen, and you could do your own cooking, thank God, and it was great, but you had to maintain certain things yourself. And that is really a direct parallel to what a VPS is, because you share things like power. If the power goes out, your whole building is doomed. But you handle your own adulthood with a VPS. So if you wanted to upgrade things, you could do it. You could paint the walls, a whole lot of things. The problem with that is that you're on the hook for all those things. You have to cook. You don't get to go to the cafeteria anymore. And a VPS means you've got to do those things. You have to upgrade your server. Maybe we'll do it for you if you put in a ticket and ask us to, but by default, it's your responsibility to maintain your server. And that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of headaches, and it's just a nightmare for a lot of people who don't want to learn how to install ImageMagick via Yum, and they don't want to learn how to install Nginx on their own. I like it, but I'm weird. So for those people who are using just WordPress, we have a thing called WordPress Managed Hosting, which is something like a VPS. On DreamHost, it is a VPS, and it is a server that is tuned specifically for WordPress. We put front-end caching on it. DreamHost uses Varnish, which is awesome. We've got memcached on the server, and we take care of adjusting your memory dynamically, upgrading everything, tuning everything, making adjustments for you. If you say, oh, hey, this plugin has a problem, we will help you figure out what the problem is. If we can fix it on the server, we will. If it turns out it's the code of the plugin, I just sent some guy a 500-word email about exactly what was wrong with the plugin he was using, why it was wrong, and how the developer should fix it. And I handed it over to him, and he said that was one of the best things he'd ever seen. And the dev said thank you. And we do. We work with developers directly. I've worked with WooCommerce. I've worked with EDD about weird things that are, partially the way we set up Varnish because no two servers handle it themselves, and partially the way their plugin is calling things. So managed WordPress hosting, which is what DreamPress is, it's WordPress on DreamHost, is specifically geared for that person who needs more than shared hosting but doesn't want to deal with a VPS. And I know that somebody has asked what's the difference between a VPS and a managed VPS, and the answer is very little. A managed VPS doesn't mean we manage everything like we manage WordPress. It means we maintain the hardware for you. And that's kind of a dirty secret that a lot of hosts aren't as clear on as I wish they were. We try to be, but it's something that kind of gets muddled in between where people think, oh, it's a managed VPS, I don't have to worry about it. The one time recently that I can think that my host went ahead and upgraded something for me was the Heartbleed plug. They said, oh, hey, we'll fix it for you. And I'm like, oh, no, I already did it. So they were like, oh, hey, good for you. We'll make sure that we've noted that you did it. And they even checked to make sure I did it correctly. But other than that, I have a managed VPS, and it's very hands-off by the host. And that's how it's supposed to be.
All right. Great answer. Thank you.
Long, too, sorry.
What's that?
A little long, but sorry about that.
So the bottom line is, if you have further questions after this about using that DreamPress service, get in touch with Mika at Ipstanu. You can also bribe her with craft beer or cookies.
I prefer whiskey.
Or whiskey. All right. Do you have a preferred brand? Because I know people are just about to run out to the liquor store right now.
I love Maker's Mark, but anything that is not flavored.
Anything that will make you blind?
No, anything that's not flavored. I also really love Stolichnaya vodka, but, that's just me.
And Ryan would send you a bottle, but they don't have liquor stores in Utah.
We have some, just not close.
You can order them online, I heard. No, wait, you can't. You can't buy liquor and ship it across state lines still. Darn it. Darn that ATF.
Checking over in the chat room, if you got questions, feel free to post them over there. And just to remind everybody, within a couple of days, I will get some show notes up that recap our discussions, the questions we went over, and any awesome links that you guys mentioned. So I wrote a post earlier this week on WordPress and accessibility, and it got some interesting discussion and some discussion I was excited about. But there's actually if you head over to WordPress.org, and do the Get Involved tab, there's actually an accessibility group whose sole mission is to make WordPress more accessible. So accessible, for screen readers, for different devices of any type. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. That if you are knowledgeable about accessibility or have experience in that field, I would really welcome you to or encourage you to go over and leave a comment on that, because I don't know very much about it, and would love some more knowledgeable people to chime in on that conversation. Okay, popping back over to the chat rooms, and
I really liked the post.
Oh, well, thank you.
I didn't comment, but I did. Yes, I'm terrible. I don't comment half the time when I read things. If I just go, oh yeah, that was good, I think that and move on my way and kind of file it in my head for later. But accessibility is just a huge thing that most of us are missing because we kind of are able-bodied, so we don't think about things like how CAPTCHA sucks if you cannot see.
Well, I can see it, I think CAPTCHA.
So,
Yeah, well.
What's that, Ryan? I talked over you.
I talked over you. You're the host, so sorry.
Duly noted. We'll see if you ever get invited on this show again.
Banned for life, just like Medeiros wanted.
You know, I did not require my guest to shave, but Ryan, how significant was your beard?
No, it was neck beard level. It wasn't good. It was bad beard. There was nothing. There was nothing. It was time anyway. But today was a really good excuse. So, yeah, I took care of that business. Turned out all right.
Nice. Sorry, there are people in.
I keep looking over because my cats keep coming in, looking at the fact that I'm on video and leaving before they can see anything. They're very strange.
Would you like to come in and say hello to the world?
No.
Nope. All right.
Oh, hi, Mr. Carey.
David Dills declines to make an appearance on Office Hours. Let's see. Well, while we're just kind of shooting the bull here, waiting on some questions. Ryan, your avatar on Twitter is blue. Would you like to tell us why?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. In fact, we're in May now, but all of April was Autism Awareness Month, and it's kind of interesting because it's something I think we see prevalence with quite a bit among web development community in general. Just I think you see it a little bit more than you would in other occupations. In fact, the reason my avatar is blue is because my son, who's 7, Colin, he's a stud. He has autism, and when we were going through the whole diagnosis process with that, and finding out really what was going on, because when he was 2 years old, I hardly even knew what the word meant. They asked me, they're like, "What's your occupation? What do you do during the day?" And at that time, I was a server. I was a Windows Server administrator for a healthcare company, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense." And they like blew it off, and it's kind of interesting because I think it is something that we hear about more and we see more, in these types of communities. But my avatar is blue to kind of raise awareness for autism and the number of people it impacts. The number is growing like crazy, and as we talk about accessibility and those types of things, I think it makes, and this is just a good reminder just in general for everybody, right? But these are people that we need to be. These are people first before anything else, and so we kind of need to see past whatever it is on the front that doesn't seem quite right. None of us seem quite right when it really comes down to it, if we're honest with ourselves.
Well, none of us are quite right.
That's the way it should be, and so yeah, I mean, as we build the web, keeping those kinds of things in mind is I'm so on board. So awesome.
Well, thank you for sharing a bit about that, and it's a subject I'd really like to kind of dive more into. A few weeks ago, one of the listeners, whatever you want to call it, folks over in the chat room brought up the issue of Genesis and accessibility, and I think Nathan Rice was in there at the same time and said that StudioPress is doing some things to address that, although I don't know specifically what those things are. But I found yesterday a site called genesis-accessible.org. and the lady that runs that site is also part of the WordPress accessibility team. But basically, it's a plugin for Genesis and covers some basic accessibility, or bridges the gap between some things that are lacking in just the regular Genesis framework. So, for instance, your sidebar headings are always going to be H4 tag in Genesis. However, accessibility-wise, and to be semantic headings, those should be H2 tags. So the plugin corrects some interesting issues like that. And I'm not sure if implementing some of those things would cause backwards compatibility to not be so compatible, and that's why a plugin makes sense. I don't know the answers to those. Just kind of interesting points for discussion. Mika, you look like you were about to chime in with.
Well, I was just wondering if it's because Genesis is changing things from standard WordPress or not. I have, like, as of WordCamp Las Vegas, when I met Laura Legendary, I've just started stepping my toe into making sure what I do is more accessible. So I've been just absolutely particular about making sure that my images have alt and title tags, that my slides now going forward are all going to be things that someone who is blind could run through a screen reader and follow along. Although as soon as I started doing that, my wife turned to me and she said, "Do I have to learn sign language and come to all of your WordCamps and sign along with your presentations?" She does know sign language. She's not that fast at it, though, so we'd probably end up being like Nelson Mandela's funeral, which would be bad.
There's a reference.
I don't even know quite where to take things from there.
But I really think that figuring out where the accessibility breakdown is, was it WordPress or was it Genesis, would really be an awesome thing. And I keep wanting to say, every really awesome theme company should hire at least one person who just is accessibility person, who knows what the pain points are, knows how to get in touch with people who can help them, and who just work for making everything going forward more accessible. Because if there's any one thing I've learned about life, it's that your vision can go at any minute. And for most of us, how we see is how we interact with the web. And the minute you take that away, you realize exactly how terrible a lot of our sites are. It blew my mind when I sat there. Just looking at a site, realizing if I couldn't see, I would not know how to do this stuff. And I don't want to exclude a whole group of people just because of that.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, you don't know until you know, right? So shedding some light on it and getting people to think about it is a great thing. A few more minutes here before we wrap up. So if you have a question for Mika or Ryan, go ahead and post it over there. And
I can answer one that you had last week.
What's that?
You were trying to figure out why my URL was halfelf.org for my WordPress stuff.
Ah, yes. What's the explanation there?
So, let's see, 6 years ago, I was talking to Andrea Rennick, and I joked that if I had a title on WordPress forums, it would be the Half-Elf Support Rogue. I play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, you see, and other role-playing games like that. So she went and made my title Half-Elf Support Rogue in the WordPress forums. And that became so funny to everybody that I just started, using that as a sig line and using it all over the place. So originally my site was, I think, tech.ipstanu.org on a multi-site. And then I thought, you know what, I should just own Half-Elf because it's going to stand out. And when you do a search now, and I do this when I can't remember my own answers, I'll search Half-Elf question and I'll find my own website. And it's way faster, I found. So between Ipstanu and Half-Elf, you can almost always find me. And I've just, decided to own it and love it and be a Half-Elf. And the answer to what is the other half, according to my boss Simon, it is half unicorn, because I am a mythical creature that rescues everyone.
And when you fart, rainbow shoot out?
We don't talk about that in public.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. We're going to save that.
It would be awesome to see, though. It would be really cool to see.
That's going to be on the Genesis After Hours.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Got someone asking, why do people use short links? Usually short links are great because they're shorter. So especially in Twitter where real estate is important. What's that, Mika?
I was like, short links. Oh, short URLs.
Short URLs.
Because they're short. They're easier to type. If I tell you go to health, HELF.us/URL, it's easier to remember than go to halfelf.org/2012/this/that. And if it ever changes, I can just change the short URL.
Truth.
Where it points to. Well, that's because I own my own domain and can do those things. But you can do that. URLs.
Short URLs for lots of stuff though too. Like even from like tracking. I know people use them a lot for that to see how many times something gets clicked or that kind of thing too. So they have a few different purposes.
Oh yeah, definitely. The metric tracking I've got through my short URLs helped me optimize a site to figure out that I could get away with having a pop-up when they show up if they came from Facebook or Twitter to join a mailing list, and it flipped my conversions 300%, which was it blew my mind. Wow. And that's Chris Lemma's fault because he told me about how he managed to get more people to sign up for a mailing list. So I thought, well, why don't I try it? Where are they coming from? And it was great. I use URLs, which is by one of the WordPress developers.
Norcross.
WordPress.
No, Norcross is the developer.
No.
He wrote a plugin
it's not.
for it. Oz.
It's Oz.
Oh, it's Oz? Oh, okay.
Yeah. He wrote URLs, and Norcross wrote one of the definitive plugins. But it's great because it works with Jetpack Publicize. So when you see those tweets that come out that are like, half elf double down on whatever I think I wrote last week, and it's got my health URL, which is a running joke. Health is German for help, but there's also this really awesome Far Side cartoon where the guy has written HELF on a little island, and the plane says, "No, wait, that says health, not help," and they fly away. So, and then of course half elf. So
Gary Larson.
You get like layers.
Yeah, I think one of the first times that I connected with Andrea Rennick, it was over giggling at a Far Side cartoon, and that's when I knew we could be friends. Good stuff.
I bonded with her over Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters.
Wow.
And
Ryan,
that's just a weird thing to remember.
I just sent Andrea a screen cap of the 2014 theme, so I think we're buds now. No sea monsters. Sorry.
Fair enough. Okay, well, now that we are totally derailing, we'll go ahead and get wrapped up here. But just want to thank everybody for participating and joining us today, and really appreciate Mika and Ryan, you guys giving us your time and your expertise. Ryan, where can people find you on the web?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. I had a good time. At Ryan Don Sullivan on Twitter, the real Ryan Sullivan. Yeah, well, the real Ryan Sullivan. The other Ryan Sullivan took my domain name and all that stuff. So it's Ryan Don everywhere now, pretty much everywhere. If you include the middle name there, you can find me. And obviously, my business is wpsitecare.com, and we actually are changing pricing for our beginner plan, our starter plan on Monday. So might be worth checking out our plans page to get in on the ground level. Get the better pricing now before that goes up. So.
Cool. All right. And Mika, how about you?
You can find me on the Twitters talking about everything under the sun, from baseball to WordPress to fan fiction and saving lions, which I raise money for in my spare time, and the SCA at Ipstanu. If you go to ipstanu.org, be aware that that is my personal site for my crazy personal thoughts, so you will get a lot of weird stuff. If you just want to talk about WordPress and websites, you want to go to halfelf.org. There is a link off of that for store.halfelf.org where I sell ebooks, 2 of which are about multi-site. They're pay what you want, so if you decide you don't want to pay, there are coupon codes on the side. If you decide you want to pay double, there's a new secret coupon that does that. Just put in double and it raises your price, which is silly, and I'm wondering if anyone's ever going to use it, but I thought I'd put it there because why not? I work for DreamHost. I'm their WordPress guru, half elf, half unicorn, and we are currently having a very low price on our Dream Objects cloud offering, which is managed by Ceph, which just got bought by Red Hat. So we wrote a good product if Red Hat is totally into it. We have a backup plugin that I wrote, and soon we will have a CDN plugin for you as well.
Man, busy bee.
Very busy. That's what I'm doing when I'm not helping in the forums.
And yeah, if you do go partake of one of Mika's multi-site books, definitely encourage you to not use the free coupon. A little thank you in her tip jar for those resources would be fantastic. All right, well, we will wrap this up, and guys, I will see you next week for Genesis Office Hours. I'll announce my special guest later because, got to give you something to look forward to. And y'all have a great week, and we'll see you on the Twitters.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks for inviting me so I could show off my glasses.